Alright, so we started creating our RecyclerView adapter class in the last video. In this one, we're going to continue writing the code to finish the adapter. Now specifically, the function that we haven't yet finished is the onBindViewHolder. So this method's called by the RecyclerView when it wants new data to be stored in a view holder so that it can display it. Now as items scroll off the screen, the recycler will provide a recycled view holder object and tell us the position of the data object that it needs to display. So what we have to do in this function is get that item from the list and put its values into the view holder widgets. Now that's normally quite easy. We just store the photo's title in the text view and the thumbnail image in the image view. Now looking at our Flickr image view holder class that we created at the top here, it's got a text view called title and an image view called thumbnail. Now the problem we've got though is that we're not storing the actual photo, rather we're storing a URL showing where to get that photo from. Now if we had nothing better to do and perhaps we were reinventing the wheel, we could create an async task object to download the image. In fact, you know now everything you need to do that if you really wanted to. It's really not that complicated. However, there is a better way. There's an open source library called Picasso that does exactly what we want. In fact, it's better than that because it maintains a cache of the photos we download so that they're not downloaded again. And that really improves performance as well as saving the device's battery because it's not using the Wi-Fi or data connection as much. So let's actually see how that works. So the first step we need to do is add the Picasso library as a dependency. Now there's two ways to do that. One would be just to edit the build.gradle file for the module and type the details in there. Now that's great if you know exactly what the library is called, but we're going to do it another way that lets Android Studio help us out. So what we want to do is come over here to the File menu in Android Studio, and we want to select Project Structure. Then we want to come down here and click on App under the Modules heading at the bottom of the left-hand pane, as you saw me click. Now we want this Dependencies tab over here in the top right so that we can see what's currently being used, because in here that's a list of everything that is being used. Now the RecyclerView and CardView libraries were added for us when we created the layouts. That's what Android Studio did after asking if we wanted to add the libraries. Well, actually that's what used to happen because we didn't actually get prompted for that like we used to. And it did say that the RecyclerView library's been added, but it hasn't because it used to be, but Google are changing things. Now they may well change things back again, but this is one reason why I mentioned the RecyclerView library. The other reason is to draw your attention to the fact that things do change. Now if Google had moved the RecyclerView out of its own library, then it's possible that they'll do the same for the CardView. So don't worry that if you don't see a reference to support CardView. Now we have got that reference here, but don't worry if you're not seeing it in there, because you can see here that clearly that the RecyclerView is working, but it's not showing up under a list of dependencies here. So the CardView was added to the layout, so you know that it's available in the project. As of the time I'm recording this, you can see here that the dependency, or it needs a dependency on com.android.support.cardview. Then we've got here version 7, then colon 26.1.0. But that may well be missing altogether when you come to create this app if Google make further changes. And we've also got the design support library here and also app compat, because we chose to make this app compatible with older versions of Android. So to add a new library, we want to click the plus button, which depending on your operating system may be either in the top right, or in the case of my Mac, it's at the bottom left. So click on that anyway. And we get the option there to select the type of dependency. We want to click on and choose library dependency. Now we know the one that we need is called Picasso, so we can just type that into the search box and press enter, so Picasso, or we can click on the search icon on the right. So that used to happen. So now that we've done that, we should get a list of the libraries matching. So click on OK. Now that's something that should have happened and maybe will happen again in the future. But at the moment though, Google are changing the repositories, and as you can see, this doesn't work. So if you do get a list, you can select the correct library, but as you can see that when I'm trying to search there, I've got nothing to show there. So if you haven't got anything, just type in the full library name. That's what I'll need to do because the fact that Google are changing something at the moment and the search is not working. So I'm going to type com.squareup.picasso Picasso 2.5.2 and do a search. And you can see that was automatically added to the list of dependencies there. Now you may have found an earlier version of Picasso in the list that popped up. So let's have a look at how you'd work out which version to use and how I knew what to type into the search box just now. Now at times like this, a Google search is the best way to proceed. So I'm going to switch to my browser. We're going to do a search here for Android Picasso. Now I've included the word Android so I don't get loads of results about the life and works of the famous artist who was named after this library. The first one that should be returned, and it is in my case, is the square.github.io.picasso. Click on that to have a look. So we get a lot of information, a load of information in fact about the Picasso library, and I'm not going to go through it all now, but there's code samples and a load of other information if you follow the links over here to the right. But down at the bottom is the instructions we really need down here. And as I scroll down, there's lots of information there, right down to including the line that we need to add to our build.gradle file. So we basically want com.squareup.picasso Picasso 2.5.2, and you saw me type that in to the search bar previously. So this is the website for the creators, and the version shown is the latest version. So this technique can be used whenever you want to include a library in your Android project. You'll find that the Google documentation isn't always updated straight away, and they update stuff so frequently that changing the docs every time would be a mammoth task. So you'll often want to use a later version that appears in the Android docs. The list in Android Studio is updated from the repositories and will have the latest version that's available. Alright, so going back to Android Studio. So we never got that list of matching libraries populated, but we now know it's com.squareup.picasso Picasso.2.5.2, and obviously I clicked OK. So now that it's been added to the dependencies, we can get out of this screen by clicking on OK again. And when we do that, we need to wait a little while Android Studio resyncs the project. It's actually downloading the library as well. When it's done, we're going to just open up the build.gradle file and just have a bit of a look at that and see what it's actually done for us. Okay, it's done now, so I'm going to open it up. And by the way, I opened the module. You saw me click on the build.gradle module app. There are two build.gradle files listed under Gradle scripts. You can see the one above that as well. We normally work with the module one. It's very rare that you need to change the project one. And as you can see down here at the bottom of the build.gradle file are all the dependencies and all the entries we saw in the dialog a minute ago. So the Picasso library has been added, as you can see there on line 35. And you can see there's the card view as well. And recycle view may be there if Google have decided to change things, but obviously it's not showing at the moment in this video, and so on. Now, we could have just added the implementation line in here, but often going through the project structure is easier and there's less chance of a typo. That's when it works, of course. All right, so at this point we've got the Picasso library added. Let's see how to use it. So what we want to do is we're going to close down the build.gradle file, and we want to go back to our Flickr Recycler View adapter class, which I'm in. We want to go specifically down to the onBindViewHolder method. So I'm going to delete the to-do reference there, and we're going to start typing some code. And we'll put an entry in here to say this is called by the layout manager when it wants new data in an existing view. Right, so in terms of the code, it's going to be val photo item is equal to photo list, square brackets position being a parameter passed to this function. Then we're going to log something, log.d, parentheses, tag, comma, double quotes is going to be dot, onBindViewHolder, colon, then we're going to put a space, dollar sign, left and right curly braces, photo item dot title, and then we'll put an arrow, so 2 dashes and a greater than sign, and we'll put dollar position. Then we're going to do Picasso with a capital P, which is the library we just added, dot width, parentheses, holder, dot, thumbnail, dot, context, parentheses, dot, load, parentheses again, photo item, dot, image. Then on the next line, I'm going to indent that and put dot error, parentheses, r dot drawable, dot placeholder. Next line is going to be dot placeholder, r dot drawable, dot placeholder. Then on the next line, dot into holder dot thumbnail, parentheses. Then on the next line, we're going to leave a blank line there. Holder dot title dot text is equal to photo item dot title. All right. So the first thing we'll do is retrieve the correct photo object from the list. That's line 42. Now the recycler view tells us the position of the data we need in the position parameter, and that's what we're using to retrieve from the array list. And on the next line, we're logging what we've retrieved, as that's always useful when developing. We then use this Picasso.with function on line 44 to get a Picasso object. Now the Picasso class is a singleton, so instead of using new to create a new object, we're using that static function. So it makes sure that there's only ever one Picasso object in our app. Now you can learn more about the functions from the website and by searching online, which is always a good idea when you're using a library. You can hold down the control key and click on the method names or command on a Mac also to view the source code. Remember that the comments for the functions, though, when you do that, appear just before the actual function in the source. All right, so moving on, Picasso needs a context as an argument to with. Now we could have passed a context in our Flickr Recycler View adapters constructor like we did for the list views adapter, but I wanted to show you another way to get a context. All views exist in a context and they all have a getContext function. Or to be more accurate, as this is Kotlin, we can just refer to the context property. Now we've got a couple of view objects here. We've got a text view holding the photo's title and an image view holding the image. So to get the context for Picasso to use, we can just use the context property of our thumbnail image view. And we're doing that, as you can see, on line 44 there. Now the load method that we're actually calling then after that, well, that loads an image from a URL and we store the thumbnail URL in the image field of the photo class. Now Picasso has been designed so that we can chain the method calls together, which is again a common way to design libraries these days. So after loading the image, we can continue calling these other functions. So our code sets the placeholder image to be used if there's an error. You can see that on line 45. And Android Studio is nice enough to give us a quick representation of what that image is going to look like. Then on line 46, we also set the placeholder, and that's to help while the images are downloading. Now on the Google page where we downloaded the placeholder image, there's another icon representing a broken image. So you could download that and use that for the error image instead if you wanted to. And finally, we store the downloaded image in the image view widget in the view holder, this .into. Now Picasso will download the image from the URL on a background thread and puts it into the image view once it's downloaded. Now our function doesn't have to wait or doesn't wait for the download to finish. All right, so once the download's finished, Picasso updates the image view and we see the thumbnail. Now we're almost ready to test this. The last thing we need to do though to make it work is to associate this adapter with the recycler view. So we're going to work on that in the next video.